Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's discussion about reflecting meaning. This skill is a little bit difficult sometimes for students to grasp, especially in context to the other things that we've already discussed. So, you've already got a bunch of skills that we sort of thought through, that you've practiced from time to time. Reflecting meaning is a little bit hard to sort of think about, to conceptualize, and especially to put into practice. So I wanted to give just a little bit of an explanation about what reflecting meaning is, and maybe a few examples about how it could be used with clients. So that's where I want to focus today. So, when it comes to reflecting meaning, one of the things that I like to think about when it comes to when to use it is a lot of times when you're working with a client, you might be using all of the different skills that we've talked about so far: reflecting emotions, summarizing, using questions, open questions in particular, reflecting content. You're using all of these skills, they're sort of going from one to the next, and you notice, like, boy, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere with this client. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again. When are we going to sort of take this discussion to something that feels more, that has more substance or has a little bit more sort of like depth to it? So when you get that sort of circular sort of feeling when you're working with a client, it's a great indication that something's probably going on that's in the middle of that circle. And so reflecting meaning oftentimes is one of those things that you can do to sort of like stop sort of spinning around the circle and go right into the middle and reflect something that maybe captures all that you've been discussing with a client. So to me, that's one of those things that I sort of pay attention to when I work with my own clients, is when I feel like I'm sort of dancing around something. I'm not going anywhere. I'm saying the same thing over and over again. I might think in my counselor's chair of, I wonder what I could say or propose to this client that's going to sort of put all of this stuff we're discussing sort of like right in the middle, right in focus for us to maybe use as part of the counseling session. But that's one of the things that reflecting meaning does. It takes sort of everything you've been working with and puts like a pin in it so that it can help you and the client better focus onto where you want to go in therapy. So, getting a little bit further into the weeds of this, what is the purpose of reflecting meaning? So I like to think of it in terms of like a funnel sort of idea, whereas on the top of the funnel, you can see right up here is sort of like general facts and thoughts, some things that are readily available with a client. You know, I went to work today, I'm this many years old, I have, you know, three dogs and two cats. So that just sort of like general sort of stuff that's pretty apparent, and most people would be perfectly happy sharing it with anybody. As you get further and further down the funnel, you get to things that feel a little bit more guarded most of the time, and also more central to who that person is rather than just general sort of ideas. So as you get all the way sort of down to the funnel, right at the, well, let me see, at the bottom right there, you can see like core values, beliefs, sort of internal processes that guide the client. So some ideas that sort of help the client sort of navigate through life, some sort of blueprints that they've developed about what they really believe about themselves or a way the world works. Those are the sorts of things that we can use a reflection of meaning to kind of highlight for the client, and oftentimes they can be very helpful. So when it comes to reflecting meaning, we really want to use it to have a deep understanding of a presenting concern for a client, something that is at the bottom of that funnel that really sort of touches on something that's close and personal to the client or how they operate. It highlights a pattern that the client keeps replaying. A lot of times, those internal sort of core values or beliefs, those are things that we might see from the therapist chair, but the client sometimes may have no clue that that's where they're operating from. So, a lot of times, sort of using a reflection of meaning to capture that pattern can be a great thing to use to bring into the client's awareness. Sometimes it's connecting multiple areas of life into one theme. Like if I feel disappointed with my marriage, I feel disappointed in my friendships, I feel disappointed in my connection to my boss at work. Well, there's a lot of disappointment that seems to be swirling around. So connecting with that theme of feeling disappointed might be really helpful for the client to sort of take a peek at, and to see like where is that disappointment circling around, what's what's going on with that because it seems to be coming up everywhere in every relationship the client's a part of. And then it can also be a springboard in therapy. Again, if you feel like I'm sort of circling around, there's not a whole lot happening. Well, reflection of meaning can be one of those aha moments where it's like, oh goodness, I'd never sort of seen this kind of like piece of the puzzle that seems to tie everything together. And then you can really move forward in therapy and start helping the client understand how that reflection of meaning might be showing up for them in either a helpful or not so helpful kind of way. So here's an example of feeling versus meaning, how they might show up. So if I were to use a reflection of feeling with a client, it might sound something like you feel disappointed about how your parents treated you. Great reflection of feeling. It really cuts to the client's internal experience of what's going on for them. So that's an excellent reflection of feeling. But if I want to use a reflection of meaning, it might sound something like it feels like your parents don't believe in you. Can you see the difference there and just sort of the impact of that reflection of meaning? So it could be the exact same story, but if I'm sort of hearing from the client that, boy, you really get a sense that your parents just don't have your back, they don't support you, maybe it doesn't feel like they're on your side or on your team, then I can use that reflection of meaning, and that could be a really powerful thing for the client to maybe sit with and to understand a little bit, that maybe this is something the client feels consistently, and I wonder how that plays out in the client's life, that feeling of my parents don't believe in me. I wonder how that impacts them, but you can sort of see that's a great springboard into future therapy. How about a reflection of content versus a reflection of meaning? So a reflection of content could sound like you wanted to do your best but fell short. Okay, great reflection of content. The client said their story. This is what I picked up from what the client said. So I'm reflecting the content back to them. So that's something that could be helpful. Now, if I wanted to flip that maybe into something that was a little bit more impactful, maybe a reflection of meaning, it could sound something like, it seems like you never really get to where you want to go. Again, look at the difference between these two. The reflection of content sort of sticks to the story, what the client just told me. The reflection of meaning feels like it cuts sort of to the core of what the client sort of believes about themselves or the way the world works. So we're touching on sort of a larger kind of like universal theme for the client where it feels like you never really get to where you want to go. And that reflection of meaning probably applies to more than just one specific area of life. So again, reflection of meaning cuts sort of to that core area. Reflection of content, still very important, but doesn't quite have the same sort of like centralized sort of like central theme or central importance that a reflection of meaning can demonstrate. So looking forward then, when we think about the different skills that we've discussed, what they look like, how they can be used, here's just a couple of things to keep in mind about what these skills do and how we can use them. So first, a reflection of content. That's really showing a client that you understand what they've experienced or what they've been through. I hear your story. I'm able to sort of say it back in a way that shows that I heard you and I really get what you're talking about. Very important to build that connection with the client. And again, to show that I'm not just sort of hearing you and parroting back exactly what you said. I heard you and I really get what you're trying to say. Reflection of content does that very well. A reflection of feeling goes to a different sort of space. It can also show that I understand where the client is, but it speaks more to their internal kind of experience. The way that something that the client interacted with sort of has them feeling or their experience of what that thing in their environment sort of sparked for them. When I reflect the feeling to the client, it shows that not only do I sort of get what happened to you, I can also hear how it's impacting you. Again, really important to show the client that I'm not just sort of sitting and listening and not really getting it, but I'm really keying into specific parts of the story and how they're sitting on your shoulders. Questions, terrific skill, something that needs to be used for instances when we're talking to a client and maybe I need a little bit more information about their story and I need to maybe fill in the gaps because I'm not quite following along. So questions can be really helpful. Closed questions to get a very specific part of their story. Open questions, which sort of invite the client to say a little bit more and hopefully to sort of spark them to keep going with whatever they're speaking on. And then the one we just learned about, reflection of meaning. So here's the part where maybe we can connect to a specific theme in a client's life, something that is sort of guiding the client as they move forward and is speaking to something that's a little bit more of like a centralized kind of like understanding that the client brings with them to move through the world. When you reflect meaning, that's sort of like the top of the iceberg kind of thing of like this shows that you can really get how the client operates, how they're understanding the world around them, and what are some of those internalized sort of like blueprints the client operates from in terms of how they move through the world, how they understand themselves and other people. So reflecting meaning, very, very important skill, and one that takes many, many years to master. So if you're listening to me talk about reflection of meaning now, and maybe you're still a little fuzzy on how the whole thing operates, trust me, that's all right. This is a very advanced skill. Something that when I work with graduate students, it takes them a long, long time to really sort of grasp the concept and how to use it effectively. So I don't expect you to be a master at using reflecting meaning at this point, but I think it's important to bring up because it is one of those skills that when you're moving towards becoming an effective therapist, it's a really important tool to have in your therapy tool bag so that you can understand your clients to the best of your ability. So just wanted to have a quick discussion about reflection of meaning. Hopefully that helps you gain a bit more of an understanding about this rather difficult skill to conceptualize. But as you're moving forward this week, if you have any other thoughts or questions, please email me, let me know. I'm happy to get back in touch with you. Thanks so much for watching my video. Take care. Have a great week.